The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Monday, another great week in the Ribs beginning, and we open up, as we always do, with shots, 50 gray, shots, guns, everything. Walnut Street area we had in it. And then in Maple Gardens, and I did have time to print a few things out here, but this is a delayed post for officer safety. 50 gray Maple Garden. Suspect from last night's 50 gray has returned and is breaking into buildings. Oh yeah, it's like it's a crime wave. I know, people are going to go, well, there's crime all over the place, but a lot of that stuff like they're doing in Atlanta is.
And that's a good segue, because we have such a crime wave in Fall River that we're spilling over into New Bedford.
Yes.
A Fall River man is facing charges after bringing gun. Guess where he brought the gun to? A trampoline park.
Well, you always got to bring a gun to a trampoline park.
Obviously.
What would happen if that trampoline went crazy and started attacking people?
But the sad part is, this gentleman is on probation or probation, I guess. His name is Chantra Say. He's 32 of Fall River. He had a 9mm handgun loaded with 13 rounds of ammunition.
Which is illegal.
Which is illegal.
That's a high-capacity magazine, which is just second. The gun is illegal, no doubt.
Right.
But the magazine is also illegal.
Right.
So okay, just for so everybody will say we're going to dot the I's on this one.
Yeah, he's currently on probation out of Bristol County Superior Court for assault with intent to murder, possession of a firearm. These convictions stem from his involvement in a Fall River shooting that took place during the summer of 2010. We can't keep our crime in Fall River.
Wait a minute, it's 2013. This guy's still running around with guns.
2023.
So, still running around with guns 13 years later.
Right.
And how was he apprehended? With the help of the community.
Community, yes.
You know why? Because you see this? It's in the newspapers. They talk about it. They have community involvement. What do? We don't even talk about it. Shut up and go away. Don't ask questions. Don't ask for information. You get nothing.
Well, I'm gonna read the quote from Chief Paul Oliveira from the New Bedford Police Department. These are excellent examples of how effective the partnership between the police and the community can be. We give credit to the individuals who stepped up to provide the critical information necessary. It allowed us to take 2 firearms out of the hands of 2 individuals who have no business carrying them. They are also outstanding examples of our officers arriving on scene promptly, approaching dangerous subjects without hesitation, and placing themselves at great risk in the interest of public safety. I'm very proud of all the men and women of the New Bedford PD. So, this is what happens when you have leadership. Leadership.
Yeah, well, Mayor Mitchell, obviously, and the police chief, look, this city has been allowed to basically rot from the inside out for 3.5 years under Paul Coogan.
Yeah.
He does nothing. Nobody knows anything. There's no transparency on any subject, whether it's crime, school department, what's going on in the city. It's shut up and just, you don't like it, vote no, don't ask questions, fund stuff that's not funded. We don't care. And his legacy will be, when they do a forensic audit, and hopefully the mayoral candidates will do forensic audits, we will find out that we are on the verge of receivership. He's running for another term so he can get about $750,000 in salaries and just walk away when all the ARPA money goes away and this city hits the wall. When all these things are this 5-year plan was BS, we know it. This city's going to crash and burn. It's going to crash and burn. But the only way we'll ever know, even all the way back to 91 when we sued, there was no transparency. They lied to the city. The newspaper said, oh, we were out of money. We weren't. We found out they had millions of our dollars in their account, and then they pleaded ignorance. But that's the problem. The problem is this city, this is cover-upville. You know, they never, ever tell the people because they don't want to. And like I said, listen, New Bedford police did a great job. So do our police when they're allowed to. But why can't we fix this department? And why didn't we have an outside chief come in rather than put 3 new chiefs in? Why didn't we have an outside entity come in, set up the department, make sure there's checks and balances, make sure everybody's doing their job? Because we see, you know, the definition of insanity, the last time I checked, was expecting a different result after repeating the same thing. So the thing is, we continue to repeat these mistakes and expect a different result. We're doing, and if they're doing something, again, why don't we know about it? Where is, you know, and I think it's, personally, I think it's beyond the point of no return. I don't think anybody within that department can fix it. There are obviously systemic issues within that department, the way it's operated. It has to have an outside entity come in, look at it.
Well, we made the recommendation a couple of chiefs ago that the mayor should go to maybe a retired state police officer or like that and bring them in temporarily just to bring the department in line with today's standards and develop some participation in the community, with the community, and involve the community in some of it.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And that would work out best. I mean, I support our police department. I support every one of them. I mean, God knows they've been there more than once for me and have done excellent jobs, okay? But their hands get tied as well, because if they don't know what's going on, because we don't know what's going on, how can they do anything?
Look, I worked with them for 38 years at fire scenes and other issues, emergency issues. You know, I know a lot of them. They're great guys. But the reality is that I also understand internal politics in these various departments. I know about favoritism and patronage within the department, things that stifle morale. And believe me, they're all happy now. They got a good pay raise. But the reality is, after a while, if there's an inherent issue with patronage and favoritism, that's why you need, like what Cranston did. Cranston brought out an outside chief.
Right.
And they did a thorough, from top to bottom, they made whatever changes are necessary. We haven't heard much about Cranston since then. Apparently what we need is someone who has no friends, who doesn't know a soul. Just bring them in, have them look at the department, a police professional, and then have them say, okay, you've got to fix this, you've got to fix that, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And then that's, look, morale is difficult enough with the police department, and nobody, you know, you just saw it on the news today. They're building a training facility in Atlanta to train them to better interact with the public. And they got a bunch of outside agitators throwing Molotov cocktails and bricks at them and burning the construction equipment to build this facility to train them. And this is done intentionally. This is terrorism because they want chaos, they want turmoil. They had shields, they had masks, they had camouflage, they had Molotov cocktails and bricks. It was a riot. It wasn't a demonstration. You can walk around with a sign saying you don't like it. But I mean, look, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You want police officers to interact with the public better, and then you want to burn down a training facility that's going to help them learn how to do that more effectively. So that shows there's the total hypocrisy of these people. It's like Paul saying that he cares about housing when he doesn't. And look, crime is an issue nationwide, but remember one thing about crime. Crime gets down to the lowest common denominator. That's the mayor, or whoever's the head of the town or city. It's their job to provide safe streets and good education. Those are the two things that right out of the gate people say, what do you want? I want safe streets and I want good education. And we're doing neither. So it's on him. I don't want to hear it. Chicago, they got rid of Lightfoot. It's starting to turn around in the country. They got rid of Lightfoot. They got rid of Cheshire Bodine. They got rid of a lot of these people. And it's starting to get, because people are getting outraged. I mean, you know, Lori Lightfoot, Chicago was always pretty bad on the South Side.
Right.
But as you said, the problem that you identified is good, because what happens is ultimately now, because of the total lack of enforcement by some of these DAs and stuff, it's begun to spill over. Now it's gone to Somerset and Westport and New Bedford. Fall River criminals are going over there to share the wealth. And you look at what's happened down in Atlanta. That Buckhead, that little rich enclave, has been lobbying for a while to try to separate themselves from the city of Atlanta, create their own community, and have their own police force. And they pay but they don't want them to do that because they pay a lot of taxes.
That's right.
And so Atlanta doesn't want to let them do that. But they're sick and tired of it because now their very, very affluent community is now suffering the crime. It's spilling over into Buckhead. You know, something's got to be done. And the thing is, when you see virtually nothing, crickets, not a word. You don't see it on radio. You don't hear about it on Radio Pravda. You don't see it in the Herald News, maybe the Fall River Reporter. But here's a headline. Yeah. Why? Because it's a Fall River man in New Bedford? We wrote about it? How about all these 50 grays? Why isn't somebody talking about how many shootings we've had?
You know, I'd like to find the exact number of shootings that we've had so far since January 1st. Let's just look at this from January 1st to now. Because the amount of calls I've heard has been, you know, rather large. And how many did we get last year? How many have we had since the beginning of Paul's term? There's another big question. And how come for reorganization, he wants to reorganize city government, he wants to reorganize the school department, and by his idea of reorganization is adding more positions.
And more jobs.
And more, that's what I mean, adding more
and
positions.
more supervisory jobs and pay raises.
Exactly. But we don't reorganize the fire department, we don't reorganize the police department, we don't reorganize the water department, but we reorganize the EMS. We moved it all downtown.
Yeah, and gave them all big pay raises.
And gave them all big pay raises.
That's right.
So who's the next union to come forward for a big pay raise? It's got to be the fire department because
they're in arbitration. That's right. And they're giving the police. So that's another. But you're right. But let's look at that. When we had a murder at Corky Row.
Yeah.
And that was a while ago.
And he threw a movie.
Well, yeah, movie and a parade. That's what he does. But nothing else. No follow up.
No.
Now we've had shots fired at Corky Row recently.
Exactly.
So we continue the problem, but you see, he showed up. He only because Chris Peckham had called a public safety meeting. So he showed up at that scene. I don't know what he did. He walked around. Maybe he was giving out lollipops or something, because that's what he likes to do, give out things. The king of the kids. But where was the dialogue on crime? Crime is all over the place. People who are residents, we've read them all. I got a whole file here of stuff. Fall River Police Department responded to a hospital after a stabbing. According to sources, shots, this is of the heated conversation at the library. I mean, we can just go on and on and on and on. Now, the latest one, that was the guy shows up the next day. So that's like a slap in the face to our policing, because the community isn't involved. We have nothing. And 3.5 years. Listen, this is like, if you could say we were being unreasonable if it was 3.5 hours after it happened.
Or 3.5 months.
Even 3.5 months. You can't allow, bullets flying. But his response was, quote, "Just because you have one." This is a quote I'm reading. I got #cluelessmayor. This is an old one. It just so happened to be at the top of the pile. Quote, "Just because you have one doesn't mean bullets are flying around in Fall River." Unquote. Really? Well, Walnut Street, 2 days in a row at Maple Gardens. Every week we read one. Every week we hold up one of these things.
Corky Row.
And Corky Row, wherever, Sunset Hill, Bay Village.
Bay
Village.
And those were all of the past 10 days.
Yeah. So, but, this is just total lack of leadership and engagement with his own city. He's made this into his own employment agency and given all his friends raises. That's what he's doing. Because crime is the major one issue. He is the mayor. He has not uttered a peep. He hasn't even acknowledged. It was bad enough years ago. Remember when Eddie Lambert wouldn't acknowledge we had a gang problem in the city?
I remember that.
And I remember it too. But we weren't getting the shots fired we have today, even with the gang problem. There was some gang fights and stuff like that. But this guy hasn't even acknowledged. He still pretends it doesn't exist. That's totally unacceptable. You are not providing the public safety that you're required to do as the mayor. And then the other thing you're not providing is affordable housing. And you sent this to me, and it's a very good article. It's from Commonwealth Magazine, and you, I don't know if you'll be able to read this, but close up, but I'll quickly read this to you. We don't just need housing, we need affordable housing. While economic recovery takes hold across communities, residents of the city, this is about Chelsea, the epicenter of the pandemic, continue to experience acute housing and economic instability, exacerbated by structural racism and a lack of affordable rental housing and ownership opportunities. Now, there's another I highlighted a couple of things. It's only a couple of pages, but there's some stuff. Gateway cities. By the way, what's a gateway city?
Fall River.
Yeah. Officials in recent commentary piece and Governor Healy in her tax and spending plan are backing a state program known as Housing Development Incentive Program, HDIP.
Which we can't stand in Fall River.
Well, this one takes it apart.
Yep.
As a tool to create much needed affordable housing. Strikingly, as revealed in a new report from the Massachusetts Law Reform Institute, MLRI, the exact opposite is true. Okay? HDIP promotes the creation of market rate housing as designed, excludes projects where more than 20% of the housing are considered affordable. The result of the programs are staggering. The MLRI's report reveals only 2% of the units created through HDIP are affordable. Across Chelsea, over half the renters are housing cost burdened, and almost 1 in 3 households are spending more than half of their income on rent. And these residents are essential workers who fueled our economy throughout the pandemic. As families face inflation, rising rents, and many housing units traditionally built with HDIP are completely out of reach. Moreover, incentivizing market rate, often luxury housing developments without providing municipalities the option to meaningfully increase affordable housing stock risks accelerating a torrent of displacement across Chelsea and the greater Boston area, and also Fall River and all the other gateway cities, because this is about Chelsea. Lifting the 20% program cap on affordable housing units along with other common sense reforms is essential. They don't care about you. Great article, real data. Like we know that TIFs don't work either. We had 2 of the most prestigious colleges in the country say TIFs, but we still give them to the rich people.
That's right.
In case you haven't figured, this article is right on target. And we don't have to. We didn't need this article. You know, we got to. Yeah, I know we communicate a lot with the Commonwealth Magazine. We have to tell them we didn't need this article. All we have to do is run that little video of Kenny Fiola saying, even if you get Section 8 or any kind of subsidy, you still can't afford these apartments.
Right.
That's what this article says. And they don't care. They don't care about the regular people of Fall River. They don't care how many people they throw out in the street. They just don't care.
And remember how the Fall River City Council, under orders from the mayor, has bastardized the HDIP program.
Yeah.
The HDIP program was supposed to be a zone, which in Fall River was the waterfront, which, not a problem, but they weren't making any houses there. Not yet, anyhow. And then what happened? Jaisel comes along. Jaisel says, oh, Dave Hebert, let's put the Lincoln School as an HDIP zone. So, made that one area an HDIP zone. Then Bobby Karam came along. Let's make Adams House an HDIP zone. HDIP zone. Then the developer for the old Notre Dame Church, or St. Bernadette's, or whatever you want to call it, that's an HDIP zone. I turned around and I told 2 city councilors, why don't you just make the entire city an HDIP zone? Because that's what you're doing. You're just doing it in bits and pieces.
They changed what the acronym means. We know what HDIP, we know what HDIP means because it's here. Okay. We know it. They've defined it. But the new HDIP acronym I just came up with is Housing Developments for Increasing Profit for Rich People.
Yep.
That's HDIP now. That's what it is. That's all this has become. And they should be in court for doing what they did, because what they're doing is fundamentally illegal. That's not the way this program was developed.
That's right.
This was not what this program was developed for.
But this is how our state legislature, Alan Sylvia, Carol Fiola, Paul Schmidt, Michael Rodrigues, designed this law. And they knew, or they better have known, because if they didn't and they were ignorant to it, they weren't doing their job, that with the loopholes they created in it, that this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, but CJ, you know as well as I do, our state representatives, what they just said, Alan was just on the radio saying they didn't collect enough taxes.
I know.
They didn't milk our wallet enough, so we may not be able to give these tax breaks that the governor wants to put to regular people to help Massachusetts be more affordable. But they gave themselves a big, fat, giant pay raise, though. Like I said on the last show, why don't you all give your pay raise back? What was it, 25 grand?
Something like that.
It was a lot of money.
Yep.
Give yourself a pay raise for wandering around in the hallways. Hey, Paul would make a good state rep, too. He's good at walking around with his hands in his pockets. But he'd be doing it backwards. But the difference is, up there, they walk around and they got their hands in our pockets.
That's right.
Not their pockets.
That's right.
Because now we were supposedly had billions of dollars in surplus in this state.
Yes.
And we've got a state rep telling us they haven't gotten enough taxes.
They haven't met benchmarks.
Benchmark. Remember the benchmark?
That's right.
Oh yes. Let's use a flowery little sesquipedalian word, and we will tell everybody we'll use this fancy word for benchmark. It means they haven't gotten enough money from you. They haven't bled your wallet. They haven't grabbed the stone and squeezed it to get blood out of the stone enough. This is one of the most expensive states to live in. People are fleeing Massachusetts. 25,000 went to New Hampshire, no taxes. Houses are $150,000 less average price, 150 grand. And they have no taxes.
That's right.
20-some thousand went to Rhode Island. That's really bad when you escape to Rhode Island. Yeah. And others have gone to Florida and Tennessee and Texas, and they're leaving Massachusetts. Healy knows it. We are losing, as this article said, we are losing the people who got us through the pandemic. Essential workers are leaving. We got nurses and people just saying, hey, screw this, I can get a job anywhere.
That's right. That's right.
Why should I stay in Massachusetts and pay this kind of money for these people to give themselves pay raises? It still absolutely boggles my mind.
What's really interesting is you mentioned Rhode Island, and McKee in Rhode Island wants to drop the tax rate from 7% to 5%. Massachusetts used to be at 5%. Don't you think that's going to be a big draw on people to come to Rhode Island if he drops that tax rate to 5%? He already got rid of the excise tax.
Yeah.
So there's no more excise tax on autos.
Yeah.
Hey, how about we get rid of the excise tax in Massachusetts? Wouldn't that be an idea to help the taxpayer a little bit?
Look,
but God forbid we do that.
Don't ever say those kind of words.
I know.
You'll be put on a terrorist watch list.
I know.
Hey, I got to give one of our viewers credit. He came up with a better one for the acronym.
Okay.
Housing development for insider people.
There you go.
There you go. That's even better.
That's even better.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's right.
You know, but you know, you gotta kind of laugh and be a little satirical to keep from crying how badly they're screwing everybody in this state. Everywhere. Chelsea. Now, Chelsea went into receivership a while back. Why? Because of this crap.
Right.
You know, but it's the total indifference. There's nothing. You know, if you hate people and you know, the great unwashed, you don't want to be near them. You think you're going to get some kind of disease because they work for a living. They're not rich, or they don't have a nice public job where the mayor can give you a pay raise, and if you can keep a side job while you're working, and then if they catch you, that he gives you a pay raise and makes you a supervisor. It's a beautiful thing when you got a life like that. When you can walk around with no accountability. You can screw your job up for 30 years and you never miss a paycheck. It's a beautiful thing, but most people don't live like that. That's not the reality. And to see this city, you know, I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and they said, well, what is anybody going to run against Paul on? So the question was asked, well, what has he done? And the answer was from this individual was, well, he's really hasn't done anything. But, you know, he kind of hasn't done anything wrong. No, you're right, half right. He hasn't done anything, but by doing nothing, he's done something wrong. He's allowed the city and the departments to deteriorate. He's destroyed our future, our economic future. So there's plenty to run. Crime, education unperforming, affordable housing, the total lack of... I mean, newspaper articles all over the state about this stuff. And in Fall River, these issues don't even exist. This is outrageous. It's outrageous.
I agree. There's no question about it, and it's not getting any easier. And when you talk about affordable housing, you know, CDA is giving a developer $350,000 to get 2 units. Mm-hmm. So it's $175,000 a unit it costs for us to get them. Mm-hmm. And the developer says, I know the need for affordable housing in Fall River because the seniors are being outpriced. Even this developer from New York, knows that they're outpricing people. Yeah. But he's developing market rate housing because it's a profitable business.
Yeah, but he doesn't know Fall River because it's not only the elderly.
That's right.
It's even the working people.
That's right. That's right. And when you consider the fact that the Housing Authority has a 97% occupancy rate, 97%, there aren't many units available. People are on waiting lists for units in projects for 3 years. They're on waiting lists for a Section 8 certificate for 8 to 10 years.
Unless you know somebody.
Well, yeah, unless you know somebody, of course, and we know how that works. And we've seen the people that have flowed through the Housing Authority as their director and his other positions. So we know you've got to get there fast. Well, everyone, I want to thank you all for watching. Please remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We will see you on Wednesday. Have a great day.